Welcome to the Fairhaven Church Parent Talks podcast, where we desire to equip and empower you to lead well in your home. My name is Kristen, and I'm here joined by two guys who are on the student team. So I have Andrew and I have James, and we're going to be starting a new series. Actually, I'm really excited about this series because this is one of my favorite books in the Bible. You guys excited about this?
It's a good one.
I am. It is a very good book.
It is a very good book. So, let's ask a question before we jump in. My question is, what has been your go-to summertime food? Like, what's your all-time favorite? Maybe not always, but this summer, what has been your go-to? Why? You kind of...
No, I misunderstood the question when I saw it. I was like, this summer. And when I saw that I was doing it with James and we were doing it together, I was like, oh, I need to put one that he is going to know and understand why I said that.
So what were you going to say?
Archer's beef sticks?
Archer's beef sticks. Because we ate a lot of those during our middle school and high school camps.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, we, during move camp, we were roomed together and we had all of the snacks in our room.
Yeah.
So students were constantly coming into our room, which was honestly really fun. We had a lot of fun conversations with students. And we had so many Archer's beef sticks. And we left with still some. And we ate a lot. James started putting it on his salads.
Yeah.
In this moment, I'm realizing that you didn't give the girls any for our dorm for mixed camp. You kept all of the Archer's beef sticks. Didn't we have them for mixed?
We did have them for mixed.
James?
You definitely
I feel like you hoarded them
for middle school.
Oops.
That might have been intentional for high school. I'll be honest.
Aww. Well, that's a good one.
You didn't miss out.
Yeah.
Maybe you did.
Maybe I did. So outside of the beef sticks that were enjoyed because protein was required at camp, there wasn't a ton of protein options. Actually, I think I went several days without any protein because you guys hogged the beef sticks.
Maybe.
There's probably some protein in some of those little snack bags.
Yeah. Like graham.
Maybe.
A tiny
something
bit.
in there. Okay, but since it is close to the end of summer, what has been something that you enjoy, summer food?
I'm a big watermelon guy. So whenever summer hits, I eat a ton of watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
But this summer, it hasn't been watermelon as much as it has been Rita's because my wife wants to go to Rita's a ton. And I'm always like, oh, yeah, sure. Because I got married 3 months ago now. So
whatever she wants.
We've been going to Rita's a lot.
You're a smart guy.
Yeah.
Whatever she wants. I like it.
I remember eating a lot of grapefruit and cantaloupe growing up. I don't really have a specific one this summer, but I ate a lot of grapefruit and cantaloupe. We had the little special grapefruit spoons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with the serrated edge on the other side where you cut it where the vein is.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I do love grapefruit.
I feel like this summer has been so hot that we've grilled out more this summer than any other summer that I can remember. And my kids finally are to the age where they like grilled chicken.
Ooh.
That's a big deal.
Amazing.
They ask for grilled chicken.
So
that's our thing right now.
Love grilled chicken. Grilled chicken brats with secret stadium sauce. You can buy it on Amazon. And the reason I can't have a brat without it, it's from the Milwaukee Brewers stadium, and I can't eat a brat without it. Yeah.
That's funny.
So sorry, Reds fans. You're going to have to try it.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
But what you really needed to learn from that conversation was Archer's beef sticks were a staple for the student team.
More than a staple.
All
it's
summer
a way
long.
of life.
A way of life. That's awesome. Okay, so before we dive in, James, you are a full-time student ministry person.
I am now.
So you just came out of our residency program and are now full-time.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Good.
At the time of this recording, it's not even been a full week.
Yeah. I started the Sunday of the week of this recording. So it's been a really good transition. I feel like it's what I've been feeling God calling me to for months now. So to see it myself actually step into it and be here, it's been awesome. Yeah. And it's just cool to see all the support I have in it as well. Yeah. So it's been great.
That's great. Yeah.
It's been really cool to see you grow the last year as well. From the first time we sat in a meeting together till now, and getting to see how much you've grown and understood, like, why is it that we do things the way that we do it?
Yeah.
Like, there's intentionality with it, and we care about your students, and you've definitely caught on to that.
Yeah. Well, so then the sad transition is at the time of this airing, it is Andrew's last Sunday with us as you are moving to Florida with your family to join your family, your extended family in ministry down there. So, boo.
I have thought that a couple of times. I am sad, truthfully. As much as I am excited, I am still very, very sad because I love this place. I love these students. I love you, the families of Fairhaven, and just getting to know every single one of you, as many as that I can know reasonably well. So I'm super excited. I'll be taking over as the pastor of Next Gen and Next Steps down there. So I'm excited for a new challenge and some boundaries with family.
Yeah.
But it'll be really fun. It'll be good, and I'm excited to live right by the beach.
Yeah, that'll be great. I mean, this is the church, right? Like the Big C church.
Yes.
We do ministry together.
100%.
So it'll be great. Okay, so now that that's out of the way.
Now the real stuff.
Now we're going to dive into the book of Daniel. So I wanted to give you a little bit of context as we are going into the book of Daniel. This week, like I said, it starts a new series, so we're going to be starting right at the beginning. But there's a few things that we just want to make sure you understand. So the book of Daniel, it is both a historical book and a prophetic book pointing to the end times. Daniel himself, he was taken captive in Babylon. Oh my goodness, why couldn't I? That was so weird.
You're thinking Babylonians.
I was. So he was taken captive as a teenager, and that's something like as you're reading through the book of Daniel, it's imagining like someone really young, a young teenager being stripped away from your home and your family and being forced to serve the king. I mean, it's like a really big deal. So I think it's important to understand that context. It's also a reminder that the Israelites were in captivity because of their ongoing disobedience to God, which is something we've been talking a lot about over the last several weeks. But the book, it points to the hope that our God is God and he will redeem us. And then finally, something that I want you to know is that, as I briefly mentioned before, but the book of Daniel serves as one of the primary foundations of the book of Revelation. And so if you study the book of Revelation, and I would encourage you to do that, it points back to Daniel so many times. And so that's a really, really amazing connection. So James, we're jumping in to Daniel 1. So talk to us about what happens at the beginning of the chapter in verses 1 through 14.
So Kristen, like you said, the Israelites have been taken over by Babylon, and they've taken sacred items from the temple, and part of what they've captured have been young Israelite men in order to get them into Babylonian culture. I think like when we hear that they're being put into their culture today, that brings a different context than it did back when they were being captured, because being put into Babylonian culture wasn't like learning how to fit in, learning how to like be in their culture, but it was literally becoming Babylonian. And for a teenage guy, I know that would be really hard for me because they were put into like a 3-year training program where they learned everything Babylonian and they were expected to become Babylonian. And it's hard to stand up for what you believe in at that age. But there were 4 people that were captured that we're going to be learning about. They were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and they were all in that 14 to 16-year-old range, is what scholars believe. But part of what they first did when these 4 were captured is the Babylonians changed their names. And their names already had like pretty significant meaning for who they were and what their life stood for. And the Babylonians' main goal in changing their names was to change that. So Daniel's name meant God is my judge. He was changed to Belteshazzar, which is may Bel protect his life. That was one of the Babylonian gods. Hananiah was Yahweh has been gracious. His name was changed to Shadrach, which means command of Aku, who was another one of their gods. Mishael was changed to Mishael is who is like the Lord. It was changed to Meshach, which is who is like Aku, which I think that one is the most stark change because of how similar the two names are. And Azariah was Yahweh has helped, and his name was changed to Abednego, which is servant of Nebu. So it's quite clear through the changing of their names what the Babylonians were trying to do when they captured these young men, put them into service, and decided that they would be there. But what we see is that Daniel and his friends stood up in a really cool way against the Babylonians. And the stakes were pretty high for them to listen because they most likely saw a lot of other Israelites that were killed as a result of Babylon coming into Israel. But in verses 8 and 9, we see it says, "But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel." And Daniel didn't know that the chief of staff would have those when asking. He just knew what he stood for and that he wouldn't compromise and become Babylonian.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're thinking about that, I mean, these 4 young men felt the conviction because they grew up following God. And like you just said, even with the name change, I mean, they were being tossed into something completely different than what they knew and something that went completely against the one true God who they served. And so I just wanted to wrestle through for a second the reality of that task. And James, you mentioned it briefly, like it would be really challenging. But like, put yourself in that position as a teenager coming out of this Israelite Jewish culture and being forced to be a Babylonian, right? Like that would be so hard.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me, there are a lot of different things that it reminds me of, but my wife is left-handed, and throughout history, oftentimes they would try and get somebody to be who they weren't. Like being left-handed was like a curse. And so like you have to be right-handed instead of left-handed. And so they would force them to do these things. And it was just like really awful. Or even like other cultures where they would force women and like put bindings around their feet so the feet would be smaller. And like these are kind of like other historic examples that aren't necessarily the same, but I imagine them being just as like psychologically or emotionally or physically damaging of just like, oh, I'm supposed to be this thing and I'm supposed to do this thing, even though that's not who I am. Like, that's like taking my love of musical and sports away from me and saying, you can't do those things anymore. You have to do something else. You have to, I don't know. I can't even think of another example. But the thing that it always also makes me think of is like, how are we obedient even with the small things? And sometimes I'm like, haha, I'm not very obedient with the small things sometimes. So what, like, and multiply that by like 100,000. And like, that's kind of what they're experiencing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as they moved into this, they're realizing like they want to stick to a strong conviction they have for the food that they are given, and they are, I'll say, forced to eat, and how they can stand up for that. And so, Andrew, take us through the next section of verses that really focus on that part of the story.
Yeah. So I would actually invite you to read these verses for yourself, verses 15 through 21. Because there are a couple things that stand out, and really what happens is like they're allowed to only eat of the vegetables that, like the chef, or I forget who he was, but it's like, yeah, okay, the king has said like you can't eat from these things. But there are 3 things that I noticed. Is one, you could see the difference. There is something distinctly different between Daniel and his friends that was better than the other people that they were being compared against. The second thing is that they were blessed by God. It says that they were kind of like given this aptitude to understand and know and to apply to all of these different circumstances, kind of like gifts of the Holy Spirit. Like, you were obedient with this thing, so I'm going to give it to you. And then the last is that this led these men in influential positions where, comparatively to those around them, they were a cut above. And it says in verse 20, Nebuchadnezzar found them 10 times more capable than any of the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom. And it just reminds me that when we choose to follow God, and this is one of the things that I want to share with the students as much as possible. When we choose to follow God, we're going to show the world around us something distinctly different that looks and appeals to anybody and everybody that comes into contact with it. Why would you not want to be a cut above? Why would you not want to love someone unconditionally? Why would you not want to forgive and have mercy and be unified instead of divided and angry and mad?
So you have these boys who are thrown into this new culture. Their names are changed. They're surrounded by like the king's best, right? They're in a place, a dining situation where they have literally the best of all of the foods. But these foods aren't foods that were appropriate for the Israelite people to eat. And so you see that they ask, please, like, let us show you that our God will take care of us, even though all we eat is vegetables. I love how you point out what happens as a result of that is that they're stronger and their minds are more clear and they have more wisdom. And that's because of the power of God. And so I think we have to believe that if God rewarded these boys for their faithfulness to him, he also rewards us for our faithfulness to him. And that's something that I want to make sure that it's not lost for you as a family or for our kids or our students. This isn't just happening in the Old Testament. It's the reality of who our God is. When we faithfully serve him and stand up for our convictions and follow his way, he is faithful to us and he will also reward us. And that might be, I mean, I'll say, quote unquote, just heaven. But let me tell you, there is no just in that, right? Like we have heaven to look forward to. But in a culture where we right now are constantly surrounded like by temptations, how can families put safeguards in place for themselves so they can walk in obedience to what they know God is calling them to? What do you think, James?
Yeah. I think like first and foremost, the thing that really helped me growing up, especially when I got into college, was having my mom, my dad, and my brother all trying to grow in our faith together.
Yeah.
I think bringing to our dinner table things that we were learning that God was teaching us, things that we were going through, just like ways that we can grow in our faith really helped me a lot. And it was a great way that my mom and dad guided by asking me, like, what was I learning about? Like, what is God teaching me? What's he doing in my life? And then just being there to walk through those big decisions that I was making, like deciding to pursue ministry, deciding to come back home, all of those things, to have them to be a guide in those times really helped.
Yeah, so it's actually doing life together, right?
Yeah.
And it's asking hard questions and it's being willing to be vulnerable and authentic and talk to each other. And I know your family.
Yeah.
And I love your family. And they're amazing. But I can just like imagine those conversations around the dinner table, like you said. And I think that's a really important part of trying to like create that culture in your home.
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw this question, there was actually one person that came into my mind because I've seen this person do it over and over and over and over again. She doesn't know that I'm sharing this, but Lauren Robinson is so good at this with her kids. Before any event that she has, and if you don't know her, she's been on the podcast several times. She's our Springboro Kids Director, and she has kids in the ministry that she is running. And before events, because they're there helping her set up, doing all of these things, she's having consistent conversations about expectations and what's going to happen. And I think that's important because it shows even a larger glimpse. Yeah, this is in a controlled environment that she has control over to a degree because you're dealing with kids. But I think even more so, there's so much of this world that we cannot control. And so we need to make sure to have these conversations about expectations consistently because there are going to be a lot of things that your kids are learning that if you're not careful, they're going to learn it from the wrong place. And so to communicate these expectations and how to respond and act appropriately, which is what Lauren does so well. It's like, if this happens, this is what you should do. And without missing a beat, when something like that happens, and I've seen it a couple of times, her kids respond the exact right way because she's prepared them by having an intentional conversation and communicating the expectations clearly.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. It's like intentional families, and that's for you parents to take that and really implement it and to think about it. And how can you make sure you're being intentional with your families to have those deep conversations? But also, like we said, it's also in the small things. It's not just in the big things. It's just in the everyday. Well, this week with having a new series, we also have a new Bible verse. And so I just want to encourage you as families to be memorizing this, encourage your kids and students to memorize it. But what a cool thing for all of you to memorize it together. It's 1 Corinthians 10:31, which says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God." And I just love that. What a great reminder. Next week, we're going to take a look at Daniel chapter 3, which is going to be a very familiar story to you. But we're going to spend the next few weeks in the book of Daniel. And so we hope that you'll stay with us, you'll stay connected. And I would encourage you actually to be reading it. Read it alongside us because it's a really great book. We'll see you later.